Alrighty then. Welcome in, welcome in. I guess it's just time to get right to it. So I don't know how much people have been paying attention to all this online BS. I know I've talked about Collective Shop before, but also YouTube is going to be tomorrow, and actually apparently several profiles are jumping on the bandwagon, or platforms, not profiles, of, basically requiring ID to get into any kind of mature discussion. Certain words, certain things, any kind of mature video, and see, the strange thing is I did kind of like a pre-roll to it, because in YouTube you can set yourself to restricted, which is basically the same thing that this AI ID 18 and under thing is supposed to do. And what basically happens is that I'm just going to mute the music or stop the music. Nope. No, I didn't mean to stop the media. I wanted to pause it. There we go. So, right? Yeah. I went through that on my desktop and on my phone. Twitch automatic mutes as soon as you start up. And that's just ridiculous to me. And, but it's kind of the point of what I'm, talking about here, is that there's a lot of control we don't have anymore. And they keep talking about how it's all because, we got to protect the kids, got to protect the kids, got to protect the kids. Why don't we leave that to the parents? There's YouTube Kids. I'm sure Twitch could implement something very similar. We could brand stuff. And yes, I know YouTube had an issue. Yeah, age gating. Well, agitating, yes, that too. That you can't be an adult on the internet anymore. You have to censor yourself. You can't have a reasonable discourse. And I think it's relatively ridiculous. And I know I've talked a lot about it recently, but I just don't really think people understand how do I put this? How damaging it is. How damaging it is to your psychology. You're literally being domesticated. You pay attention. Kids are making dumb decisions all the way up until their 25s. Oh, well, they're not mature. People are not aging the same rate. They don't look as old anymore. This is the same thing we did to animals. Pay attention. Look at dogs. They keep puppy characteristics much longer in their life. And it's actually shortened their lifespan in certain cases. In other cases, apparently it's also lengthened it. So I'm not super sure on that one. But the fact is we're domesticating the general audience. We're taking all these stresses away so they don't have to worry about it. We gotta, keep bumping up adult decisions, like Little Tay. I know you probably don't know who she is or anything like that, but she started an OnlyFans as soon as she was 18. Whatever, that's fine. If that's what she wanted to do, no big deal. I don't care. But now people are talking about moving, oh, well, maybe, because of this, we have to move that bar up a little bit higher. We have to move the bar to make, am I a bit quiet? Is it quieter? Okay, I can turn it up. Is that better? I'm trying not to be quiet. Yeah, as far as I know, I'm okay. I'm just watching my mic go into the red line, and maybe it's some other setting. Can you hear me, or am I just quiet? Yeah, because I'm trying to talk. I hope you can hear me. It says you can. I'm just waiting for a response there, Rando. 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 Just waiting for a response. Sorry about the echo. I was trying to hear. Oh. Let's try turning on the music. And see if we can hear that. I'm just trying to figure out if it's the music or if it's my mic. Ah, okay. All right, so can you hear me now? Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Because you should be able to hear my mic and everything, even if I mute the music. Ha. Sorry, I won't do that. I'm being annoying. I'm just trying to see, and this is what I'm talking about. This is so weird to me sometimes, how much this does this. You know, I'm trying to talk about jeez. A lot of times I'll like have to refresh. Yeah, Twitch is just weird. You know, a lot of this stuff is weird. You know, and I've been going back and forth on what would be the best way to go about figuring out how to fix, you know, for my audience. You know, I mean, I know it's not very big right now, but what am I supposed to do? You know, a lot of people will say, oh, you're just not, you know, big enough yet to matter. You know, you're not big, you know. Well, yeah, but looking at like, there's this big lawsuit going on with Twitch right now. We don't know where that's going to fall out. There's censorship heading out on the platforms. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to me that everything's just happening all at once. I'm not specifically sure. I literally just heard about it today, but my guess would be them unequally enforcing their TOS, their terms of service. There are people that get away with a whole lot of stuff that shouldn't be. Like there's this one guy, Mike from PA. He called the Jewish people a demonic ethnicity. That's hate speech. I don't care who you are. That's hate speech. And he got a week ban. Now there's another guy called Tectone who called another streamer fat, and he got 2-week ban. Like there's no rhyme or reason to, like, he wasn't even like super cruel about it, like making up creative stuff. No, he just literally called her fat. And yet they're unequally applying the TOS. There are people on Twitch that should have been banned a long time ago, but they bring in too much money. Right. A couple of days for calling somebody fat, I can see. We don't want to encourage that. But we also, when you're talking about singling out a whole people and calling them demonic, what's next? You're going to start calling other people of color minorities. Where do you draw the line if you're not going to enforce it? And that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that friggin', some of the other streaming platforms that people make fun of, well, that's the problem is that these are middle level streamers. They're making a decent amount of money, but they're not making like the high level. So it goes really weird. So I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people shouldn't tolerate that. They should have reported that guy right away. But because all of these people are in their own little echo chambers, they're surrounded by people that agree with them. There's nobody challenging them on it. There's nobody trying to be more equal about it. And Twitch isn't. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And people talk about like Kick and how, but it didn't, it's ran by gambling. Amazon's ran by sweatshops. What do you think is worse? People who choose to gamble, and yeah, it's an addiction, don't get me wrong. Or people that have no choice and are forced into some very brutal labor. Like, which do you think is actually worse? And that's my problem is where do you go from here? You literally have to pick the lesser of two evils. Well, that's how we got into our political system. We don't have good people to go with. You just literally have the lesser of two evils. And so I'm working on something in the background. I'm working on basically taking myself off of, well, not off. I'm still going to be streaming and stuff like that. But I think I'm going to start my own website where you'll be able to find everything that I do. We'll see if it works out the way I want to. I'm debating on, how to go about monetizing it because this is going to cost me money. But it won't be like a super amount of money to keep it running. It'll just be relatively expensive. Right now it's looking at close to about $500 a year. Which is like 50 some odd bucks a month. Well, okay, a little less. Which so far I'm kind of making that much on Twitch right now, and what I'm trying to do is use Twitch to fund that. But the idea is to actually have unique content. Yes, I could go over to Patreon and do the same thing, but then you have, people taking 10, 15%, and I still have to follow their censorship. On my own website, all I have to do is just be legal. That's really what it is that I just, as long as I'm doing everything legal, who cares? I don't know what else to do to fall under, the proper guidelines. when it can be, I mean, YouTube's known for putting their TOS wonkily, enforcing it wonkily, just the same as Twitch is. I mean, they're not going to ban, their biggest end, guys, even though they're proven to be some of the worst people. I mean, plus, I mean, how much money are they paid through scam ads, scam sponsorships? I mean, all the way back to established titles, Fume. Okay, Fume's not technically a scam, but I don't think it's healthy. There's all sorts of stuff that I don't want to become, a mega millionaire, whatnot. I'm tired of all these platforms being the wastelands. You've got to sift through an AI algorithm to find anything. So the plan is to basically use Twitch, YouTube to filter people to my website, off platform, where you can buy like my videos for $2.50. Or, buy a subscription for $5. I don't honestly know where I'm going to go, how I'm going to do it. What I can even do. But I'm hoping to be able to set up something. Right. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing it. All I'm doing is trying to create a life raft off platform. Something to absorb the weird vagaries of the internet. Absorb the losses during certain seasons that just everything crashes. Absorb when they decide to change up the algorithm and suddenly you fall, everything falls all wonkily until it comes back. Yeah, I know what you do. I knew what you meant. And which is why I'm trying to find a different way to do it. And if I can find a different way to do it, basically the idea is to help others do it. Not necessarily like Patreon, because I think, Patreon's garbage. But I think being able to push people from like this platform and then shift them over to, my content off platform. That way, we can absorb some of the losses. We can make some money, on a sideline, not to totally supplant our content, but actually make it so people can buy, like say you do your articles, so people can buy, an article for $1 or $2 or subscribe. Patreon's like literally dead, dude. Most people don't use Patreon other than those who have already used it. I know I've never used it. I subscribe to you, but you're also not going to make a whole lot of money off of the subscriptions. Patreon used to be, where people made money, but it's also got no search algorithm. Like it's not going to suggest, it does suggest certain people to you, but it doesn't. And I don't know a whole lot of people that have the spare cash to subscribe to the person 3 different ways. That's what bothers me. Okay, you become a channel member on YouTube. Well, you also subscribe on Twitch. And you also subscribe to their Patreon. You're paying that creator $15, $20 a month that they're only seeing $5 of. It's literally best. That's why I use super chats to pay Raven. Because he's making more money off of the super chats than he's making off of memberships. Don't get me wrong. I think, I do still have my membership, but it's not that much. But you have to be careful in how you pay to your creator, because they're really not making that much money unless they get super big. Like I think I just was able to make $50 off of what I was doing because that's the threshold for pulling money out. But we'll see. And that's the ridiculousness of this. Is that I don't even know how much money I've made yet until they actually pay me. How can I be sure that they're paying me the proper amounts? It wouldn't surprise me that there's some internal workings because everything that it says on my end, it's estimated earnings. Well, you have the hard data right there. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I don't know. Yeah, I know what you meant. But then again, how much does Patreon hold? How much is their take from a purchase? How much are they holding back, taking for themselves? Even though you're the reason they're there. The same reason with Twitch, Kick, Rumble, YouTube. Right. Well, I know at one point I knew, I hesitate to call him a creator, but I mean, he's been around for a long time. Randy Cassingham, he's been doing a online or a email newsletter, and he's been doing that for years. And he used to get paid through Patreon, and then Patreon was going to, like, every dollar he got, they'd hold back 90% of it. So every dollar, they're taking 90 cents. So he had to move to a different model. And I think it's time for people to start doing that again. I think it's time to go back to the old Wild West of the internet, where as long as you're doing things legal, nobody can do shit. Simple as that. You want to protect the kids? That's the best way. That's my plan, is to basically kind of go off the internet, or off the platforms for the bulk of my content. Still use the platforms to get people to come in, but then, direct them to my own website, my own place where the only people that can censor me is the people that dictate the laws. Which, that's fine. Dictate the laws to me. I will follow the laws. But when you're making it ridiculous that there are certain words you can't say at certain times, like on YouTube, just mentioning COVID got you demonetized for a while. Then it was mentioning, Epstein got you demonetized. Then mentioning suicide. I mean, what do you do? Well, and see, that's the hard part, is what do you do? And that's what I'm trying to work on here. It was an idea I got this weekend, and I'm slowly trying to set it up. If I can figure out how to do it, basically the idea is using other means of social media to direct people to your website. Like you have your TikTok, direct them to your website. I mean, it cost me $76 to reserve the 2 domains I wanted. There's nothing there yet, but I got neonboss.tv and I got neonboss.shop. I got those. Those are mine now. And I need to set up the website. I need to figure out how to do all of this because I've never done any of this. But I'm a fast learner and I've got buddies in the industry, so I've got some ideas on how to do it. And I've also got some ideas on possibly getting my buddies some work with helping others setting this stuff up. Which is really the idea, is helping others, getting things set up, if I can get it done. And that's really the crux of the matter, is I'm not trying to if you help, if I help you, I want, 10%. It's like, no. My buddy does this. You pay him to set it up. I don't know what he's going to charge you. But you set it up the way you want. Start working on doing that kind of stuff. Start getting things to the extent of being able to control what we do by ourselves. Not have to go through some platform. Not have to subscribe to umpteen million things just to get the content we want. I mean, hell, if I can figure it out, I'll even live stream on that channel or on that website. But what about your discoverability? What discoverability? I mean, yeah, I've got people trickling in. I've got things happening. But is it any different than somebody doing a web search and randomly finding me? Like the internet used to be? I mean, I think you're old enough, Ninetales, to know how the internet used to be. You could surf the internet for days and not run across the same website. Now you can't go 5 minutes without having to double back. You can't get away from some of these major websites. And they're not offering you that much. I mean, YouTube. Hey, what's up, Cryptic? How you doing, man? And welcome in. Well, yeah, and that's actually, I did mean, that was another thing that, talking about future plans. I am planning on even Thursdays, probably going Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, having a 2 to 4 stream. Hey, gossip. And just hitting that time frame because I have the free time in the middle of the day to do that. And it gives me a break before I stream at night, too. I'm trying to balance a whole lot of stuff. And welcome in, gossip. I think I said that, but we'll see. I was just talking about future plans. Speaking of future plans, my plan is 2 to 4 most days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday stream, because I'm not butting up into Ghost or Raven or anything like that. I have the free time to do it. Chimosa? So how are you guys doing today? Cheesemosa. So is that like when you add champagne to cheese? Instead of a mimosa, it's a cheesemosa? Sorry. So anyway, like I was saying, 2 to 4 Central Time, which is, I think, 10 to midnight. No thanks. Well, I know they actually soak certain cheeses into a port. Oh, interesting. You going to go to that place you were teasing earlier? Well, that's always good that you're not too busy. You are a very busy person. What was that place? I know you said it was only like a couple hours from you. I'm still excited to see it. Oh, okay. Well, you said meeting up with a friend who's a local and a cameraman, so right. But yeah, the whole idea is to. Well, I guess I have to rewind a little bit. Oh. A friend who's a local and a friend. I read that properly the first time. Rando, I seriously doubt it. Oh, interesting. Only friends. Yeah, there you go. Actually, kind of funnily, I think that's closer to what I'm trying. I mean, I don't want to associate it like that. Nice. I'm excited. I mean, we are actually kind of at a low point in good horror that's not only roommates. My God, they were roommates. I love Frasier. But, anyway, basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm looking at, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, streaming 2 days, or two to four on those days. Like I said, I'm not going to be doing Fridays anymore because that just seems to be like a really slow. I'm keeping Saturday because that's the only time the oldest can really have a chance to watch me. So, go with that. I might try earlier in the day on Friday. Might try a 2 to 4. But first I want to get this 2 to 4 version going. And as I was telling Rando is that, I'm in the process of starting up my own website. I plan on hosting some of my videos and stuff like that there that aren't going on either YouTube or Twitch. These will be recorded sideways. And the idea is like, and also I might start hosting my music over there and basically allowing people to buy it for reasonable prices. I'm not going to say, I don't really know a set pricing yet because I don't really know what the market would be okay with. I mean, $1 I think is a bit much because I think you can go on like Apple and buy a single song for $1. But I'm thinking like, maybe 50 cents or 3 for $1. Right. I've already secured the website. That cost me $76. So again, I'm not really making any money from this because any money that I would have pulled out is now automatically going, any profit just got eaten. I'm not complaining. These are my ideas and I'm trying to build. Basically, the whole idea is because of all this censorship stuff, I want to build a life raft off of YouTube, off of Twitch, off of platforms where the only thing that can censor me is if I'm doing something illegal. If I do something illegal, I deserve to get caught. I deserve anything. Otherwise, I want to be able to speak the way I want. I want to be able to, be who I am without having to dick around with stupid, words. Right. And I even thought about putting it on. No. Either one is illegal. Like I said, I don't want to do anything illegal. I have always been on the right side of the law. I have had a DOD background check. Excuse me. A DOD background check. Do you think that they don't still watch me? I'm just saying, if I try to do anything illegal, the government knows. Good. Hey, no, don't spoil too much. Cryptic, I think that is an awesome idea. I think you need to go with it, but don't spoil too much. Kind of keep it under wraps because you don't want people to have this over-exaggerated idea. Because no matter how good it is, if they think it should have been better, it kind of ruins the idea. You ever have a movie overhyped? Even though it's a solid movie, it's like, oh, I think just people were making too much of it. I want to be excited and have no real expectation of what it's going to be. I want to see what you produce. And I know you're a creative dude. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And that's the idea, is trying to, do it off platform, Cryptic could, set up his own website. But thank you so much. I'm trying to figure out how best to, because I thought about doing Patreon, but again, you're dealing with somebody else's censorship. You're giving a whole bunch of money to somebody else. You never can really be sure you're getting the right amount of money back. Twitch pays me pennies for ads. YouTube, I haven't even got paid yet. And I've been doing that for apparently I tried to start YouTube 2 years ago. You're not getting much of anything from any of this. And plus YouTube, keeps upping how much you have to do to get monetized. Like, it's ridiculous. I got to have something like 500 subscribers and 30,000 hours or something like that, or it's ridiculous amounts unless you go viral, and everybody in there, yeah, and Patreon takes a huge percentage. Like, they take percentages to the point where now I can good job, gossip, where it's cheaper for me to run it myself. That's the ridiculous thing is that this should only cost me about $500 a year, give or take, to run it myself, unless I have to expand, to a lot more. But if I have to expand, it means I'm getting more money off of it. Right now, at the average of what my videos are, I could most likely have I think it was 1,000 videos, or not 1,000. It was 500 videos hosted at one time. And my music takes up very little comparatively. I don't think I'm ever going to get monetized for the music on YouTube because all of my music's too short. They want to see at least 8 minutes. Well, I'm not going to fluff the friggin' video or the music just to, make them happy. So why not just find some other way to give it to people that want it? This is how labels got started in the first place, or this is how YouTube got started in the first place. Is people just wanting to do something for themselves. And I think right now we are in a good spot to do it again. All right. See you soon, Cryptic. And I think, we need to bring back... Did I just... What? Sorry, my chat just, my what I'm reading the chat from just told me, welcome to the chat room. It's like, wait, what? I've been here the whole time. I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm working on things. If it works well, I want to encourage other people to do it too. And basically, we'll bring back the old Wild West of the internet where everybody has their own website. People who used to get paid by the banner ads that used to be on websites, the ads that you see all around them. Well, now your average person isn't getting paid that way because, they've concentrated the internet into these small little corners. What is it? 5 basic websites everybody goes to? 6? Most people don't remember the old school internet where you could, like I was telling Rando earlier, you could surf the internet for days and not run into the same website twice. You wouldn't run into it. It's all right there. And yes, I understand that at some point I'm going to be, it's going to be hard to find the website. But I still plan on doing Twitch. I still plan on, uploading things to YouTube. I still plan on doing those things. But I'll just be trying to direct people also to my own personal website where there's more content. Right? Only now, well, what was it? Angel Fire, GeoCities. What were all the old ones where everybody had their own website Like, oh my God, there was so much. Am I like having problems? Whatever. You guys don't seem to be noticing, so I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know. It's just one of those things that with all this censorship going around, with all of this stuff going around, we don't understand how problematic and how easy it would be to lose everything, because we wouldn't even notice. We wouldn't even know it happened. It could all be taken away from us. But because of all the way the internet works right now, you wouldn't even realize. I mean, I've already lived through it once. I didn't realize how restricted the internet had really gotten. Like, on one level, I understood. But now it's like, wait a minute, we're going back to these 4 or 5 websites all the time. You know, and that's all people see of the internet because everything's there. Well, they wanted to privatize the internet, and now they have. You know, Facebook owns a large chunk. Google owns a large chunk of the internet. Amazon owns a large chunk of the internet. You know, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're going through those websites. You don't even realize it. You know, that there is just so little that you can do with it. You know, go and try and go off what the search results tell you. You know, try and go after niche topics. Try and go after certain things. You know, I hate to say it, but maybe Wikipedia is right in sitting here always asking for private money rather than depending on people, you know, otherwise. It's just baffling to me. It so much bothers me that we have to keep going through. Yeah, probably. And see, I mean, like, even having to censor that. Like, you don't know what can go through or not. That's my problem is that you have to, well, yeah. But you see what I mean? You know, I mean, it's, how do you deal in this world that we're seeing right before us? How do you try to make a job or even a part-time job out of this? You know, you literally have to work for years before you can even really see any kind of profit. Because you got to buy, you know, like as a Let's Player, you got to buy the games. Let alone you have to have the computer that can play the games at a reasonable enough quality that people will watch. And you do this month after month after month after month for 4 or 5 years before you're even noticed. It's not a job at that point. You're not making money. You're at some point there is a break even. I mean, yeah, you can end up making millions, but if you talk about all the time invested, you know, and the money invested, it's basically the same kind of investment that somebody going to college makes. Not the same level of money, but if you add up the time spent, you add up all of that, you know, and on top of that, you got to try and make money other ways. Even though most of these YouTubers that made it big were lucky that they had somebody in their life that were able to pay, or some way in life that were paying outside of that. Well, exactly. You know, that's the problem is that time and effort no longer equals the money you get out of it. You're constantly losing that investment. And that's what really shocked me. That's what really hit me, was that the bar keeps moving so that you can never quite make enough unless you're lucky. It's not even skill, it's just lucky. The algorithm picks you up. Markiplier is great, but I'm sure that there are 10, 15, 20 YouTubers that could have been just as good. I wouldn't. One, it is such an investment of time and effort. Two, it is also super competitive. If it was me, I would go into coding of some kind. I would go into coding. You can find reasonable quality jobs without having to have all the headache of being a nurse. I mean, if a nurse is what you're passionate on, do it. If that's what you want to do. But I think chasing a job only because of money is why we have so many miserable people. Because they focus only on money. Says the guy that was just sitting here talking about trying to get a, response. Well, especially since writing and publishing are dwindling. They're retracting right now because of, AI. People aren't going to pay for a book from some random author when most likely it's going to be AI. Look at all the people that have destroyed that. Destroyed trust in publishing. Even big publishers are using AI here and there. And now how do you trust it? How do you trust what's going on? Because you use AI to correct some of your work. Okay, that's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you use AI to basically write your work, what's the point? And that's where a lot of people are. And I'm a guy that uses AI. Like, I like using AI to perform the music I write. But see, most people don't even understand that it's just performing it. I write it. I don't have a band in my pocket. I can't sit there and do it. Right? I'm not saying, and I think we're at a point where we need to find a way to better vet. Because just because YouTube throws it out there and it gets millions of views doesn't mean it's not AI. I mean, look at the whole AI scandal with the pug and the baby. YouTube was kicking out that video on everybody. Okay, yeah, I'm not accusing you. And yet YouTube is supposed to be this trusted person that's, supposed to do all of this, and yet it was kicking out one of the most atrocious things and getting millions of views. That's ridiculous. Yet people that actually craft something through AI are now falling to that fallout because people just, you use AI. I can tell in your thumbnails. Or I can tell in the way it's, people are accusing Raven of being an AI voice. We all know Raven's not an AI, or it's an extremely sophisticated one that I'm not sure the technology would be able to do. And I still think, people don't trust it. And you watch the narrator space, it's getting more narrow. So many of the, right? Really? People, if you read some of the comments that people have dropped him, yeah, they're for real with that. Right. Rando, I mean, that makes sense to have to go through all of that to a certain degree. I mean, as long as it's driving the narrative, as long as it's in there for a reason, it makes sense. Like, you have to have something like that in there. Otherwise, it's not going to work out so well. And especially if it covers, what you're talking about. But then again, what's superfluous? I mean, what is superfluous to one person is it's actually supposed to be there for another. And again, that's why I want to have more control to do what I want to do. I mean, if I start this website and say 100 people pay me $5 a month, that's $500 a month. That makes a decent amount of money. Is it a full-time job? No, but it pays for itself. And then with whatever I bring in through Twitch and with, if I ever get to the point of being monetized on YouTube, it would mean I could make a decent amount of money. That I could survive doing this so that it is self-sustaining. That's the point. I don't need a whole lot. I just need to be self-sustaining. I hope that makes sense. I'm not looking to be $1 million a month streamer or whatnot. A grand a month would be plenty. Plenty to take care of 90% of everything that I want to do. Then I could afford to expand a little bit, do a little bit more, make it a little bit more slick. Maybe hire an editor, so that I can get some of this stuff done and be better. Because, I'm still learning on how to be an editor, but I do enjoy it. I want to try and make it better, but I don't have the grounding in it. And the only way to really make it worth more money so that I can make it, I don't know. I want it to be worth people to watch. I want people to watch this because they want to watch it. That I'm entertaining enough, that I'm bringing up a good enough subject, that I am talking about the right things that resonate with me, and I don't have to censor myself. Like, I want to be able to critique YouTube. I want to be able to critique Twitch in ways that isn't going to get me buried. YouTube with what they're doing is it's ridiculous. We might as well just take away the anonymity of the internet, which we all know that I'm a believer in. Right. Exactly. And that makes sense. That drives a narrative. People questioning, how do you go about making up for your past? What if, especially with what you're kind of talking about, what if just seeing this person is triggering? Brings all the trauma back and they've managed to bury it for this long. Or not bury it, but actually made peace with it until they actually meet the person again. Is it worth making amends when too much time has passed? That they've been able to move on, but you coming back and actually trying to open that wound and, try to make amends, you come back and what you've really done is just reopened it, and now they have to go through all of it again. Is that worth it? That's the problem. That's my problem with psychology is that they have you keep picking at a wound. They will never let it heal. That those mental wounds, they don't really heal you. Your brain scars, puts those into place for a reason. Your brain has coping mechanisms for a reason. There's nothing wrong with having coping mechanisms. And I've seen people like, oh, that's a terrible coping mechanism. And yes, they're right. There are some terrible coping mechanisms. But there are some that are perfectly fine. If you're self-aware about it. Constantly thinking about the same thing controls your mind. You know, why do you think we have so much porn out there? It's because so many people are being sold sex in everything. Everything. You know, I mean, every advertisement incorporates it somewhere. Every TV show incorporates it somewhere. Every movie incorporates it somewhere. In places that really shouldn't be. You know, I can't tell you how many random sex scenes there are in movies. Like, what was the point of that? It's not driving the narrative. It's not doing any good. You know, I mean, I don't understand people's obsession because I've just never been one to get that obsessed over it. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. I like to look, but I'm not going to sit there and seek it out every chance I get. I've also not been under major advertising in I don't know how long. You know, and that's the other thing is that YouTube and Twitch want us to censor ourselves so much, but their whole advertisements can be almost straight up porn. Like, really? Like, they can feed the audience something, but I can't say suicide. It might trigger somebody. I can't say certain things because it might trigger somebody. I can't say Epstein, COVID. You know, I mean, who knows what other words are out there that you're not supposed to say? Right? Well, yeah, I mean, me personally, we all know that I believe in legalized prostitution. You know, I mean, there's really not that much of a difference between OnlyFans and prostitution, other than you put up a paywall between you and the pictures. You know, I mean, we just really should just legalize it because it would cut down on a whole lot of crime. You know, do you think Epstein would have had the reach he did, supposedly, allegedly, if prostitution was legal? I would say no. Do you think we'd have this obsession with, you know, in certain circles with kids being sexualized? No, I don't think we would. Do you think we'd have such high rates of sex trafficking? No, we wouldn't. I know it's not like I'm going to go find it. It's not like I'm going to go pay for it. I have a wife. I'm happy. But I also know that you can legalize it and you reduce the crime. But as long as you create an illicit market for it, there will always be somebody willing to exploit somebody else to make the money off of them. It's my same feeling on illegal immigration. But see, they wouldn't need a pimp if it's legalized. If they want to do it, they can just go out and do it. They don't need a pimp to protect them. They don't need all of this extra stuff. They'd be able to go to the cops. They'd be able to go to these things. That's why, you know, illegal immigration, I think we really need to crack down on who hires them. Not the illegal immigrants themselves, but who hires them. Who knows that they're hiring them? Who's exploiting them as an exploitable workforce? That's what is the real problem. I'm just saying, you know, quit lumping legal immigrants in with illegal immigrants because you're painting them all with the same brush. Now every immigrant's getting treated badly, poorly, which is exactly what people want. They want to act out their baser impulses. They want to feel like they have power over someone because they're insecure in their own power. They're insecure in their own self. That's really what it comes down to, is all these people, you know, screaming and crying about all this other stuff is because they're insecure about themselves. Like, if we're going to friggin' push it on people, we might as well make it legal. We might as well make it available so that people can be told about the crimes behind the scenes. Like Rando bringing up pimps. I mean, how many pimps are just absolute assholes who destroy the lives of people, who hire underage women, hire, in quotes there. I mean, what do you do? How do you get through this? Well, the only way to really do it is make it legal. So that if somebody, in a business with a pimp, so to speak, who's treating them poorly, they can go to the cops and say, hey, I want to report this guy as, to the Better Pimps Bureau or whatever. It's the same thing with all this other stuff. We need to stop criminalizing the illegal immigrant and criminalize the people that hire them. The people who take advantage, the people who abuse their power. That's where we need to take these steps. ICE is not doing a good job because they're not cracking down on the people that are hiring the illegal immigrants. That's the ridiculousness. Well, yeah, sure. I like that. Bluegrass Pimp Union. And I mean, if I was a more popular streamer, YouTuber, whatever you want to, creator, this conversation that I'm having right now would be heavily censored or I would be demonetized for. Because of what I'm talking about. Because basically I'm equating, prostitution and illegal immigration. Because it's not the prostitutes that are the problem. It's not the illegal immigrants that are the problem. It's the people that exploit them. It's the people that abuse their power over them. That's the problem. That's the true danger, is the exploitation. Yes, it's the system that's rigged against everyone. It's literally rigged against anybody that doesn't have a certain amount of money. And that certain amount of money keeps going up. Used to be if you were a millionaire, you have at least $1 million. Yep, exactly. It's this constant need to feel superior to someone else. That is really what comes down to. And because they're basically making so much money, it's meaningless anymore. They have to have another reason to feel superior. I don't care if you're on the right or the left. You're trying to feel superior to someone else. You're not doing it for the people. You're not trying to elevate everybody. You're trying to elevate yourself. Because people are naturally selfish. But some people are less selfish than others. And we keep forgetting that the very means by which most of these people make a shit ton of money, make their millions, is by being selfish, is by exploiting others. So the people in power with the means and the money are exploiters, are selfish people. They're destroying lives just to make a profit that they don't really even need. That's why we can't, it's why we could actually tax the rich and make a bunch of money off of it and actually make it better for everybody. Even if it's just 10% across the board, I'd pay 10% taxes. Because 10% of basically nothing is still nothing. And most of these people wouldn't even notice 10% missing out. It looks like a lot of money on paper, but when you've got, by definition, 10 times that amount, you don't really notice. Like, is it that big of a deal losing a dime out of a dollar? You still got 90 cents. I swear to God, I fixed it at one point. Yeah, there was one screen that I could go to that fixed it. And I don't know why, and I never figured it out. But I figured out that if I switch through the screens, it'll eventually stop. I even deleted the alert off, reloaded it, and it seemed to work just fine. But now it's doing it again. And it's just with jump scare. Jump scare is the one that continuously repeats. And you're right. Exactly. Yeah, it's really weird. It's just that one. Which the only thing I can figure is it's the only one of those that I actually made myself. Oh, hey, The Flash is a good one. Are you watching the movie or are you watching the TV show? Because I haven't watched the movie. Ah, okay. I haven't gotten too... I can't remember the last time I watched that Flash, but I really liked Grant Gustin as the Flash. But, right? Beats the shit out of Ezra Miller. But I guess the big thing is that what I'm talking about here is that I have an absolute hate for those who, right? For those who abuse their power. Speaking of people that abuse their power. But I have an absolute hate for people that do that. I don't care whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're... Well, okay. I will tell you why they went off the deep end. Their first movie. What is it? What was it? There's something wrong with Kevin. From what I understand, it was a movie filmed over quite a few years because they needed Ezra to grow with the character. So basically, that shaped that poor person for years. It's actually one of the reasons why I don't have a problem with a 30-year-old playing a high schooler. I think we need to stop making kids into movie stars. We need to stop ruining their childhood. We need to stop basically destroying children's minds before they've even had a chance to form. It's why I think anybody that's, 16 and under, 18 and under shouldn't even be on social media or the internet that everybody else is on. I think there should be a kids' internet. Basically a very controlled... what I think is that the internet should be regionalized for kids. Like, what kids get onto is literally their neighbors, their neighborhoods. Whatever school district they're in, that should be the one. All right. Yes, have a lovely day. And I'm still streaming later tonight if you want to catch back up then. I will be on between 9 and 11. Yeah, the Kiddernet. And highly control who gets on it. See you later. I think we need to, instead of censoring the adults, we need to move their kids into their own little protected garden. And I think the school districts would be a great way to do that because every kid there, every child there is a proven child. Every adult should have gone through some kind of checks. You have Parents. Well, exactly. And I was going to say, if you wanted to join me tomorrow, more than welcome on Wednesdays. That's one open for you and Ghost to jump in if you guys want. But you already have plans, which I think is fine. I think that's a great idea. I don't know. I think that, basically making school districts and stuff like that its own internet. And that's the internet that the kids can get onto. I mean, which again, we would have to basically take the anonymous nature out of the internet. We need to 2 to 4, 10 to midnight your time, if I remember correctly. Wednesdays are a day for, like, you and Ghost can hop in. I'm just talking. I'm not doing anything special. It's that, podcast thing. I'm doing the same thing today, just yapping. You guys have a subject you want to talk about, bring it to the table. You guys have a game you want to play, let's play. As long as I have it. That's the window that I keep open. But oh, nice. Cool. Wait, did they reboot the title? I Know What You Did Last Summer? I didn't know that. I don't keep up on this stuff. The person that used to keep me informed of all this moved out of the house. Yeah. Tater used to keep me up on all the new horror movies. I didn't even realize Weapons had released here. And I wanted to go watch it. That's strange. Okay, well, that's fine. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Why did that stop? Sorry, the background screen should be doing something and they're not. Why is it not changing? Whatever. Right? Bro, like, this whole stuff, like, seems so weird sometimes. I don't know how the professionals make it seem like it always works so seamless. I'm sure that we miss a whole lot of stuff that where it doesn't work, they just roll with it. Like, I just realized that, my music isn't... I mean, I know I muted the music, and it should still be playing. But it's not actually. Like, okay, it's playing, which is fine. Whatever. Yeah, exactly. The experience. I don't know, man. It's all so weird anymore. Like, I was there at the beginning of the internet, legitimately. And now that I'm seeing here where it's going through, growing pains, I think we need to bring back some of the old Wild West of the internet. We need to bring back where instead of everybody's on YouTube, on the five, the sacred five websites, we need to bring back the idea of people going to others, exploring the internet, not filtering them all down into these tight little boxes. I shouldn't be being censored because kids might show up. Especially if everything I'm doing is perfectly legal. Like, I don't get that. That's what bothers me. And I don't think it's fair to ask people to kidify themselves. Ha! You always got to you always got to bring it back. You always got to bring it back to this. But you know what I mean? Like why? Well, I mean, think about it, Nine Tails. There's a point where that sentence right there that you just played out would be forbidden. And if we let this go on long enough, it might even become illegal. Well, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we have to call it. I mean, it's part of the shitification of the internet. All right, man, you have a good night. But it's part of the shitification of the internet. It's part of this whole concept that we have to protect the kids. That we can't let the parents do it. That we can't let the adults be adults because a kid might be in the room. That's unfair to everybody. And it'll eventually reduce critical thinking skills. It'll reduce your ability to handle conflict. It'll reduce your ability to live your daily life without somebody holding your hand. Because you can't think for yourself. And then once everybody that actually still could is gone, you'll literally have people who can't think for themselves trying to help those who can't think for themselves. Right. Well, we've made people so afraid that they don't even let their kids go outside and play. That it's not safe. Well, when I was a kid, it was. We knew how to handle ourselves. We knew that somebody sitting there saying, "Hey, kid, you want some candy?" was not somebody you went up to. We knew that strangers following us was not something, you went to a public place. You don't run down a back alley. You run to a public place. Yeah, and I think it needs to go back. I mean, I don't know how many things that as a kid I had to learn to handle myself because I was outside. I wasn't near a parent. I didn't have a cell phone because they weren't for people like me. They weren't for kids. Now we're so worried about our security that we have given up every bit of freedom we have to be who we want to be. I mean, people are afraid. Yeah. Yeah, or if somebody's following you, you go to a gas station. You go to some public place where other people are. I mean, gas stations are some of the smartest thing to do because they have cameras pointing at every license plate that goes underneath their awning. They have cameras within the whole place trying to see everybody. I mean, it's legitimately one of the smartest things to do so that you can take care of yourself and so that these people can take care of you. I mean, any real smart abductor isn't going to abduct somebody or take somebody on near a gas station because of how many cameras there are. I know, I've worked at several gas stations. Like every lane has two cameras on it to literally photograph the license plates, or at least they used to. Maybe they stopped doing it because it's too expensive, but that was the idea. Because, gas and go. Nobody wanted to deal with a gas and go. Or go to Walmart. You want to talk about some place that, if you have the opportunity, you think somebody's following you, go to Walmart. Go to public places. It's one of the reasons why I hate the fact that everything's going back to closing and not being 24 hours. Because this is actually going to increase crime. It was one of the reasons why a lot of these stores started staying 24/7. And restaurants. Because if you always had somebody in there being employed, nobody could break in. Because you were already open. They couldn't be, seen. They would always be seen. There was always somebody there. That's the thing. And I don't think people really understand that closing stores actually costs you money. Keeping them open doesn't cost you as much money as you think. I don't know. It's just some of the ridiculousness that we have to deal with in today's day and age. But I think I'm going to end up calling it early because I'm trying really hard not to cough, and I think I need to let my throat relax a little bit. Shut up, Nine Tails. Because that cough hit out of nowhere, and I need to figure out what's going on before I start hacking and wheezing on the stream. But it's only a little early, so I am going to say have a good night to everybody, and I will hope to see you later. Enjoy your afternoon, and I'll see you this evening.